Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. This is the decks of the week covering Magic Online's trophies from the leagues for Pauper, as well as the Pauper challenges. And then we're going to get into some spicy decks. Before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what you think about these kinds of videos because it really helps to share these kinds of things. And then check out patreon.com for sideboard guides, or hit the YouTube join button for early access to videos. And check out cardmarket.com if you want to pick up any of these cards and you're in Europe. So let's get into the matches, or not the matches, the decks. We had 142 trophies throughout the week from October 27 to November 2nd, which was pretty standard. Last week we had 150. It's a little bit lower. We also had a much flatter metagame with mono red, not 20%, but just 12%. Coming in second was Gruul Ramp, then Affinity, then Elves. So Affinity and Elves were tied. Elves had a lot of good runs this week. Then we had Jund Glee and Black Green Glee. Although if you look at this really puts Glee way up at the top with mono red if you combine. But if you're not combining it, Jund is and Black Green are kind of trailing. It's at this point, it seems that people don't really know what they want to be piloting. From my perspective, I think that the Black Green Glee has now found a couple of builds that are good versus mono red, so I prefer that specific kind. We've also seen in the past some people playing Jund Glee with no Wildfire and just splashing for Writhing Chrysalis. We had a couple of really sweet things at the end with a couple of Jund Wildfire actually making trophies, and that's a really sweet deck from Walker 735. Then we have a red-black Wildfire Control, black-green tokens, Poison Storm, Jeskai Ephemerate popping up, Eggs Tron, Grixis Control, and then things that did not show up this week. White Weenie didn't show up, Gardens didn't show up. That's kind of a surprise. And no Ponza whatsoever, only Ramp, which was pretty awesome for the Please Don't Blow Up My Lands crowd. Now let's go into the combined. I only combined the Black, Green, and Jund Glee since there was no extra Gruul Ponza, which just puts Jund Glee, or a Glee in general, as the top of the metagame. So here we have Glee at 15.5%, followed up by Mono Red. Maybe the combo is now starting to rise and overpower people. We saw a lot less of Mono Blue Terror this week in the trophies, which is pretty interesting to see. And let's go ahead and look at the Pauper challenges. Pauper challenges, this is the combined over the weekend. Mono Red at 10.4%, Affinity and Jund Brood Scale behind it, with Golgari Brood Scale down here at 4%. So Brood Scale and Kuldotha kind of maintaining the top two slots right now with Affinity behind it. That sort of matches what's going on in the leagues. We had Kuldotha and Affinity with good win rates, Brood Scale, and just good win rates both, and then Mono Blue Terror. So the top decks seem to be doing pretty well. We saw a challenge win with Dredge, which was really cool, and then a two of Fogtrons, but I know that Clint made a top 8, which was really awesome because they like to just hop into Pauper for the challenges now and then to top 8 out of nowhere. What else is going on? Looks like Is It Control or the Is It Terror is kind of back. Well, let's check out some of these sweet decks. I think that the first deck that I wanted to highlight was Birdman's Tron list. So this is a Eggs Tron, which plays Foundry Inspector to make artifacts cost less to cast. And then the only life gain he has in the deck is Fangren Marauder. When any artifact is put into a graveyard, you can gain 5 life. And he's just playing a ton of 1-mana artifacts, Chromatic Sphere and Chromatic Star, and then Candy Trail, Conjurer's Bauble. The eventual win is with at least one of these in play. Your Conjurer's Bauble costs 0, so you can infinite loop if you have no deck anymore, and then make infinite golems with Golem Foundry. He's also playing a card Spare Supplies, which is a really awesome card advantage engine because it enters and draws a card and you can pay 2 and sack and draw more cards. It's a little bit slow, which is why I haven't played it in the past, but it was awesome to see Burb getting at 5-0 there. I have a version of this in a previous video from this week. One other thing I wanted to check out was this Black Red by Barf. He said that he was inspired by Teasdale MTG on YouTube. So I'll link him in the description below next to this deck. But this is a black-red wildfire control deck playing the Toxin Analysis Krark-Clan Shaman combo, a couple of Monarchs with Crimson Fleet Commodore and Thorn of the Black Rose, and then Refurbished Familiar here as a super awesome card to put the hurt on your opponent. So it's just doing the control thing. Tithing Blade, you know, if you like Rakdos control, this appears to be what you want to be doing. Now, I'm going to take a second and check out this Jund control by Walker 735, or like a mid-range Jund. So essentially, this is a Modern Horizons 3 tribal playing Nyxborn Hydra, Refurbished Familiar, and Writhing Chrysalis. So you have a ton of Modern Horizons 3 there, plus the Krark-Clan Shaman Toxin Analysis combo that's very, very stock, and then Wildfire. And then he's got Cast Down and Galvanic, Nihil Spellbomb in the main deck. It's very similar to an Affinity deck because it's playing a lot of the same cards, but it's in Jund and there's no Mirror Enforcer. Turns out Writhing Chrysalis is just bigger. And then you still have the Blood Fountains to rebuy these and the Refurbished Familiars to eventually overwhelm your opponent. The next deck I wanted to check out was a Grixis Affinity by Mickey Byron 96. I think this is really awesome. This was a list that I saw from an Italian player a while ago, but essentially this is playing Affinity with 0 Mirror Enforcers. Instead, it's playing only Refurbished Familiar and Thoughtcast as its Affinity cards, and it's using Sneaky Snacker as a value engine. You can discard it to Blood Fountain, or you can hit it with a Deadly Dispute and get the snack back immediately. Plus, you can use Spellstutter Sprite combined with a Sneaky Snacker to counter very, very large spells, and Spellstutter Sprite can be very good versus something like Glee. Just countering a 1-drop always, but you're probably going to be able to counter 2 and up because of the Sneaky Snacker. And once again, the Krark-Clan Shaman Toxin Analysis combo that is everywhere. That is trying to go... It's trying to be there so that it can beat up on the red-green deck, since they only have Ground Pounders. And it just seems to be stock at this point. Some interesting things in the deck are Lembas. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I would probably play like 4 Bargain and then some number of like Ichor Wellsprings. That's just more card draw in total. And then you can afford to bargain your Refurbished Familiar for another 4 life. But Eviscerator's Insight does give it a very, very, very big end game. And you have the Makeshift Munitions to close eventually. So the spiciest deck, I think the people's favorite, I'm pretty sure. This is Black Rain by Debogan, I don't know. But basically, this is Atog at home. Glimmer Barn says, sacrifice a token. It gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You also have this Cloakwood Swarmkeeper. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then we're going heavy on the tokens. You've got Many Partings. Search your library for a basic land card and put it in your hand and create a food. You have Cash Grab, which mills for, you get a permanent from them and you create a food. You have Deadly Dispute, which creates a token. Malevolent Rumble creates a token. Then you have Revive the Shire to return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand and create a food. You also have Gingerbread Cabin to create a food and Colony Gardens. It seems to be a very strong deck. I have only seen 1 trophy from them, but I did face them in the league and it was very, very powerful. Also has Cauldron Familiar as a way to just get back food, get back, and then kind of like slowly outvalue your opponent. And obviously with all the food, it seems pretty good versus mono red. And you have cheap things that get huge, which is good versus the terror decks. So I think that deck is really sweet. Hopefully I'll be able to record a video with it. If there's anything that you wanted to know more about the Pauper Leagues, let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video and we'll see you next time.